The wind cut through my coat like it had a personal grudge, 15 below and dropping as the sun bled out behind the mountains. I was riding the fence line on my north pasture when I heard it, a sound that didn't belong in that frozen wilderness, a baby crying. I reined my horse toward the pine forest, and that's when I saw her. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, dragging herself through the snow, her right leg bent wrong, bone pushing through skin, leaving a trail of blood drops bright as berries on the white ground. Behind her, she pulled a bundle wrapped in a blue coat. The baby, still wailing, which meant still alive. She fell 3 times before she reached my fence. Each time, she got back up. When she finally collapsed 50 yards from where I sat frozen in my saddle, I spurred my horse forward. Up close, I could see her lips were blue, her small hands blackened with frostbite. She was clutching a wooden stick carved with notches, wouldn't let go of it, even when her fingers had gone numb. I knelt in the snow beside her. Her eyes fluttered open, brown eyes, old eyes in a child's face. "Don't let the waterman find us," she whispered. Then her hand went limp, but still she didn't release that notched stick. I lifted the girl as gently as I could, feeling how light she was, how her bones seemed fragile as a bird's. The baby, couldn't have been more than a year old, was gray-lipped and barely breathing. I wrapped them both inside my coat against my chest and rode hard for the ranch. The kitchen was warm when we burst through the door. Rosa, my cook these past 10 years, took one look and started barking orders in Spanish mixed with English. She swept the baby from my arms while I laid the girl on the kitchen table. "Dios mío," Rosa whispered, crossing herself. "How long were they out there?" "Don't know. Hours, maybe." I was cutting away the girl's frozen coat with my skinning knife. The fabric crackled like paper, stiff with ice and blood. That's when I noticed her coat lining had been slit open and crudely resewn with what looked like horsehair thread. "Get Doc Sam," Rosa said, wrapping the baby in blankets near the stove. "This one's barely breathing, and the girl, hey, that leg." I rode to town through the dark, the wind screaming in my ears. Found Doc Sam Pierce at the saloon playing cards. He took one look at my face and grabbed his bag. By the time we got back, Rosa had the children by the fire. The baby was crying now, weak but crying. The girl was conscious, teeth chattering so hard I thought they'd break. "What's your name, child?" Doc Sam asked, kneeling beside her. May," she stuttered. "May H. Hollister. That's my brother, D. Daniel." "Who did this to you, May?" Her eyes went wide with terror. She tried to sit up, grabbing for that wooden stick lying beside her. "Don't tell him we're here, please. He'll kill us. He'll kill Daniel like he killed Mama." Doc Sam looked at me. I looked at Rosa. The girl's leg bone was sticking clean through the skin, and she was more worried about someone finding her than about dying. "Nobody's gonna hurt you here," I said, surprised by how steady my voice came out. "But we need to fix that leg. It's gonna hurt." "I know," May whispered. "Just don't let go of me." So I held her shoulders while Doc Sam set the bone. Rosa sang a Spanish prayer song, soft and low. The girl screamed once, a sound that tore straight through me, but she didn't try to pull away. When Doc Sam wrapped the splint with rawhide bindings, she was still conscious, still watching us with those ancient eyes. "You're a brave one," Doc Sam said, wiping sweat from his forehead despite the cold. The kitchen smelled of whiskey and blood and wood smoke. May's eyes were fluttering closed. The laudanum was taking hold. But just before she went under, she started talking. Rambling, really. Words tumbling out like she'd been holding them in forever. "Water rights, 1861, she mumbled. "Willow Creek, senior claim, Hollister Brennan Grant, document 247B, Mama made me memorize it. She said if anything happened, find the judge, show him." Her hand tightened around that notched stick one more time, then went slack. Rosa covered her with blankets. Doc Sam cleaned his instruments in a basin of hot water, the scraping sound loud in the quiet kitchen. "What do you reckons that was about?" he asked. "Water rights?" "Don't know. But that stick she's holding? It's a measuring stick. My grandfather had one like it. You notch it against the creek level each spring to prove your claim priority. Somebody wanted these children dead," Doc Sam said. "That leg didn't break from a fall. Someone snapped it. You can see the twist pattern. And those burns on her arms? Cigarette marks. Weeks old." Before I could answer, hoofbeats sounded outside. Lots of them. Rosa looked through the window, and her face went pale. "Sheriff's here, and he's got half the town with him." I walked to the door and opened it. Cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of horse sweat and torch smoke. Sheriff Dunn sat his horse at the front of the group, and beside him was a man I'd seen around town, younger, maybe late 30s, wearing an expensive coat and a surveyor's transit slung over his shoulder. The younger man pointed at my door. "That's where they are. I know it. That old bastard took my dead wife's children." Sheriff Dunn sighed and pulled a folded paper from his coat. Mr. Brennan, I got guardianship papers here, signed by a territorial judge. Says Silas Hollister is the legal guardian of May and Daniel Hollister. I'm going to need you to turn them over. Behind me, I heard May whimper in her sleep. In front of me, Silas Hollister smiled. You got 72 hours, the sheriff said. Then I'm coming back with a warrant for kidnapping. I didn't sleep that night. Sat in the kitchen watching May and the baby breathe, listening to the wind rattle the windows. Rosa made coffee that could strip paint off a barn, and we drank it in silence until the sky turned gray. Sunday morning came cold and clear. Rosa insisted we take May to church, said the town needed to see what condition those children were in, needed to see we weren't hiding anything. I carried May wrapped in blankets, her legs splinted and bound. Daniel rode in Rosa's arms, still weak but taking milk now. The church bells were ringing as we climbed the steps, and I could feel eyes on us from every direction. Inside, the pews were packed. Folks turned to stare as we made our way down the aisle. I found a seat near the back, settled May beside me as gently as I could. She was awake now, those brown eyes taking in everything, fear written across her small face. Silas Hollister sat in the front pew looking righteous as Sunday itself. Clean-shaven, hair slicked back, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than my best horse. When he turned to look at us, his face was all concern and sorrow. My poor children, he said loud enough for everyone to hear. What has this man done to you? Preacher Morrison started the service, but nobody was listening. The whole congregation was watching us instead, whispering behind their hands. I heard the words clear enough. Strange old man. Lived alone too long. Never got over his daughter drowning. What's he want with a little girl? May pressed closer to my side. I put my arm around her shoulders and felt her trembling. After the service, we filed out into the cold sunlight. I was helping May down the steps when Samuel Pritchard, who ran the mercantile, stepped in front of me. Can't do business with you no more, Brennan, he said, not meeting my eyes. Man who steals children. Well, I got standards. I didn't steal anybody, I said. Sheriff says different. Says you got 72 hours to return them or face charges. Pritchard spat tobacco juice into the dirt. I known you 20 years, Jake. Thought you was decent. Guess a man can be wrong. He walked away. 3 other men followed him, making a show of turning their backs. Rosa's hand found my elbow. Come, we go home now? But I had one more stop to make. The land office was closed for Sunday, but I knew where town clerk Ezra Walsh lived. He was Silas Hollister's cousin. Everyone knew it. But he was also the keeper of legal records. I knocked on his door until he answered, looking annoyed in his undershirt and suspenders. Mr. Walsh, I need to examine the water rights records for Willow Creek. Going back to 1861. His face hardened. Office is closed. Come back Monday. This is important. Those children I'm protecting. Kidnapping, you mean? He crossed his arms. I heard all about it. And even if I wanted to help you, which I don't, examining records requires a filing fee. $50. $50 was 3 months' wages for a working man. He knew I had the money. He also knew what he was doing. That's not the law, and you know it, I said. It is now. Territorial statute allows clerks to set reasonable fees for research services. He smiled, showing tobacco-stained teeth. You got $50, Brennan. Then come back Monday with cash in hand. Otherwise, get off my property. He slammed the door in my face. Doc Sam was waiting by my horse. He'd followed us from church, and from the look on his face, he'd heard everything. This is bigger than we thought, he said quietly. Water rights from 1861? That's senior claim to Willow Creek, oldest in the valley. Whoever holds that controls water access for every ranch and farm downstream. And the railroad, I said, sudden understanding hitting me like a fist. Steam engines need water. We both turned to look back at the church. Silas Hollister was standing on the steps, talking to a man in a railroad company uniform. The engineer. I'd seen him surveying the valley last month, marking out where the tracks would go. The engineer glanced our way, then quickly looked away. But not before I saw something in his face. Guilt, maybe, or fear. Mr. Brennan? A small voice behind me. May had pulled herself up using Rosa's arm for support. That man, talking to my stepfather, he works for the railroad. He came to our house lots of times. He and Silas would talk about money, about needing water access by spring. Her voice dropped to a whisper, about what to do with me and Daniel if Mama wouldn't sign the papers. The engineer saw May pointing at him. He said something sharp to Silas and walked away fast, heading toward the rail yard. Silas looked straight at me. He smiled, not the righteous smile from church, but something cold and calculating. Then he touched 2 fingers to his hat brim in a mocking salute. Doc Sam's hand gripped my shoulder. Jake, if water rights are involved, if the railroad's involved, we're not dealing with a simple custody dispute. We're dealing with men who'll do anything for money. I know, I said, watching Silas disappear into the crowd. May was still holding that notched measuring stick, clutching it like a weapon or a prayer. That evening, Doc Sam came back to the ranch without being asked. He brought his medical camera, one of those new contraption boxes that captured images on glass plates. Rosa had put May and Daniel to bed in the spare room upstairs, but Doc Sam woke her gently. "May, I need to examine you properly," he said. "Take photographs from my records. Is that all right?" She nodded, small and solemn in the lamplight. What Doc Sam found made my stomach turn. Old fractures in her left arm that had healed crooked. 3 cigarette burns on her right forearm. Weeks old, the skin still puckered and pink. Bruises on her ribs in the shape of boot prints. When he asked her to lift her nightgown, we saw more. A roadmap of violence across her thin back. "How long?" Doc Sam asked quietly. "Since Mama married him," May whispered. 2 years. He was nice at first. Then after the wedding, he changed. Started saying we cost too much to feed. Started locking us in the root cellar when we were bad. Rosa was crying silently by the door, crossing herself over and over. "What about your mama?" I asked. "Did he hurt her too?" May's face crumpled. "She tried to protect us. She told him no when he wanted her to sign papers about the water. He got so angry. He said without those papers, the railroad wouldn't pay him. He said we were worthless. All of us." The camera flashed, capturing each injury. Doc Sam worked methodically, his jaw clenched tight. "I'll testify to this," he said when he finished. "Systematic abuse over an extended period. Pattern of deliberate torture. Any judge would see it. Any judge who makes it here before Silas gets those children back," I said. Doc Sam packed his camera away, the smell of flash powder still hanging in the air. "Jake, I saved your cattle from anthrax back in '79. Remember, you were ready to shoot the whole herd, but I told you we could fight it. And we did. I remember. Well, I'm telling you now, we can fight this too." He looked at May, who was watching us with those old eyes. "I lost my own son at Antietam, 18 years old, died in my arms. I swore then I'd never stand by and watch suffering again if I could prevent it." He held out his hand. "This little girl needs you, and you need her. That ranch of yours has been empty too long." I shook his hand. His grip was strong, steady, the grip of a man who meant what he said. After he left, I sat with May while Rosa cleaned up the medical supplies. The fire crackled in the hearth, and outside, the wind had finally died down. "Brennan," May's voice was soft. "Why are you helping us? Silas says nobody will believe us because we're just kids. He says he has papers that prove we belong to him." "Papers can lie," I said. "People lie. But that leg of yours, that tells the truth. Those burns tell the truth." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "He killed Mama. I saw it." The words hung in the air like smoke. "Tell me," I said. "It was September. Mama wouldn't sign the water rights papers. She said those rights belonged to me and Daniel, from my real daddy's family, going back to when Grandpa first settled here. She said she was holding them in trust until we were grown." May's hands twisted in the blanket. "Silas got so mad, he dragged her outside to the well. I followed. I was hiding behind the woodpile." Her voice got smaller. "He grabbed her arms. Here." She touched her upper arms. He said, "Sign the papers or I'll throw you down this well." Mama said no. She was holding Daniel. She looked right at me. She knew I was watching. And she threw Daniel to me. Just tossed him like a sack of flour. I caught him. Tears were streaming down her face now. Then Silas pushed her. She fell backwards into the well. I heard her hit the water. I heard her scream. Then I heard nothing. Rosa had come back into the room. She sat on the bed and gathered May into her arms, rocking her like Daniel, murmuring prayers in Spanish. "After," May continued, her voice muffled against Rosa's shoulder, "Silas climbed down and pulled Mama out. He told everyone she died in childbirth, that something went wrong with Daniel being born. But Daniel was born in March. Mama died in September. Anyone who can count knows that's wrong." Did you tell anyone?" I asked. "Who would believe me?" May's eyes met mine. "He said if I ever told, he'd drown Daniel too. He said he'd make it look like an accident, and nobody would question it because kids die all the time." And I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars were bright and cold. Somewhere out there, Silas Hollister was sleeping peaceful, thinking he'd won. "Brennan," May's voice again. "Before Mama died, she gave me her coat. She sewed something inside the lining, made me promise never to let Silas see it. She said, if anything happened to her, I should find the circuit judge and show him." Rosa looked at me. "The coat we cut off her, I still have it." She went to the kitchen and came back with May's frozen coat. The lining was crude work, thick horsehair thread pulled tight. Rosa took her sewing scissors and carefully cut the stitches. A folded paper fell out. I unfolded it by lamplight, official territorial stamp at the top. Faded ink, some of it smudged, but readable. And in the bottom corner, dried blood, brown with age. "Water rights certificate," I read aloud. Willow Creek, priority date June 1861. Granted to Samuel Brennan and Marcus Hollister, joint claim. Transferred upon death to surviving heirs of blood. Brennan, my grandfather's name. Hollister, May's grandfather. Our families filed this together, I said, my voice rough. 61. That's when they first settled this valley. Before the railroad, before the town, before everything. May nodded. Mama said you and me are kin, way back. Third cousins, maybe. Said the Brennans and Hollisters worked this land together when it was still wild. Rosa touched the bloodstains. This is her mother's blood. Yes, May whispered. From when she sewed it. She cut her finger on the needle. She was crying and shaking and trying to hurry before Silas came back. She told me, this paper is your future. Don't let him take your future. A sound outside. Footsteps on the porch. We all froze. Then May's eyes went wide with terror, and she started screaming, not words, just pure animal fear. I grabbed my rifle and moved to the door. Rosa pulled May and Daniel behind her, shielding them with her body. The screaming had stopped, but May was shaking so hard the bed frame rattled. The knock came again. Loud, deliberate. It's me, Miguel. My ranch hand's voice urgent. Boss, you need to hear this. I opened the door. Miguel stumbled in, his face bloody, one eye already swelling shut. Behind him, two more of my hands half carried him to a chair. What happened? I demanded. Went to town for supplies, Miguel said, spitting blood into a rag Rosa brought him. Ran into some railroad boys at the saloon. They were talking loud, saying things about you and the girl. I told them to shut their mouths. He touched his jaw gingerly. They didn't take kindly to that. How many? 5. Got some good licks in before they pinned me down. He looked up at me, his good eye fierce. But boss, that ain't the worst of it. While they were beating on me, I heard them talking. Said Silas Hollister hired them to watch this place. Said, if you don't turn over the kids by tomorrow, they're supposed to come out here and take them by force. Rosa crossed herself. May whimpered from the bed. There's more, Miguel said. One of them, big fellow with a scar on his neck, he was drunk and running his mouth. Said Silas told them if the kids accidentally got hurt during the taking, there'd be a bonus in it. Said drowned kids can't testify. The room went silent except for the fire crackling. Get Doc Sam, I said. Get Father Callahan from the church too. We need witnesses to what Miguel just said. We need another knock. This time it was Doc Sam himself, breathing hard like he'd been running. Jake, there's trouble. Big trouble. He came inside without waiting for invitation. I stopped by the courthouse to file a complaint about May's injuries. Thought if we got it on official record before the 72 hours ran out, it might buy us time. And Judge's clerk told me Circuit Judge Cole isn't coming until May. Mountain passes snowed in, won't clear until spring melt. Doc Sam pulled off his hat, ran a hand through his gray hair. Jake, that's 3 months away. Silas's 72-hour deadline expires tomorrow at noon. 3 months. Might as well be 3 years. There's something else, Doc Sam continued. While I was at the courthouse, I saw Silas filing papers. I couldn't read them, but the clerk was smiling like Christmas came early. I asked around after, paid a deputy I know to take a peek at the file. He pulled out a folded paper from inside his coat. Silas is petitioning to have you declared mentally unfit. Says you've been unstable since your daughter drowned. Says you've transferred your grief onto May, that you're suffering from delusions, seeing your dead child in this girl. Says you're a danger to yourself and the children. The words hit me like a fist to the gut. My daughter, Sarah, 7 years old when she drowned in the ranch pond, 15 years ago, but the pain's still fresh as yesterday. I'd blame myself every day since. Should have fenced that pond. Should have been watching her closer. He's using Sarah against you, Doc Sam said quietly. Using your grief as a weapon? Miguel spat more blood. That's lower than a snake's belly. Oh, it's smart, I said, hating the words even as I spoke them. Town already thinks I'm strange. Old widower, living alone, no family. Half of them probably do think I'm touched in the head. I looked at May, still shaking on the bed. And now here I am, fighting to keep a little girl who's the same age Sarah was when she died. It's not the same, Rosa said fiercely. You're protecting her, not replacing your daughter. I know that. You know that. But a judge? I shook my head. Silas is building a case. Forged guardianship papers, my reputation as a hermit, my dead daughter. And 3 months before anyone with legal authority arrives to hear the truth. Doc Sam sat down heavily. There's one more thing. The petition requests immediate emergency custody, says the children are in imminent danger from your unsound mind. And if the clerk approves it, and he will because he's Silas's cousin, the sheriff can take those kids tomorrow without waiting for the 72 hours. The room felt like it was closing in. Outside, the temperature was dropping again. I could hear ice forming on the eaves, that peculiar crackling sound it makes. May pulled herself to sitting, wincing as her splinted leg shifted. Mr. Brennan, you should let us go. You should give us to Silas. Every head turned to look at her. If you don't, he'll destroy you, she continued, her voice small but steady. That's what he does. He finds what people care about, and he destroys it. He did it to Mama. He'll do it to you. And tears tracked down her face. I don't want you to get hurt because of us. I crossed the room and knelt beside the bed, eye level with her. May, listen to me. I lost my daughter 15 years ago. I've spent every day since then wishing I could go back and save her. I can't, but I can save you, and I will, even if it costs me everything I own. But why? She was crying openly now. We're nothing to you. We're just your children who need protecting, I said. That's all that matters. Your mama knew that. That's why she sewed that paper into your coat. That's why she threw your brother to you before she fell. She was buying you time to run, to survive, to find someone who'd fight for you. I touched the notched measuring stick lying beside her. This stick proves your family's claim goes back to 61. My family's name is on that certificate, too. We're kin, May. Maybe distant, but kin nonetheless, and out here, family protects family. Rosa nodded. La familia es todo. Family is everything. Miguel stood up, wobbling slightly. Boss, you got 12 men working this ranch. Every one of us will stand with you. Doc Sam picked up his medical bag. And you've got me. I'll document everything, the abuse, the murder timeline, all of it. When that judge finally arrives, we'll have evidence Silas can't talk his way around. A commotion outside. Horses. Lots of them. I moved to the window and looked out into the darkness. Torches lit up the yard, maybe 20 men on horseback forming a semicircle around the house. Sheriff Dunn sat at the front. Beside him, Silas Hollister. But it was the third man who made my blood run cold. Judge's clerk, Ezra Walsh, holding up an official-looking paper. Mr. Brennan, the sheriff called out. I got an emergency order here signed by the territorial clerk. You're hereby declared temporarily unfit. I'm taking custody of those children right now. You resist, I'll arrest you for contempt and kidnapping both. As behind them I could see townspeople gathering, some with rifles, some just watching. The whole town had turned out for the show. Silas smiled up at my window. He'd won, and he knew it. May's hand found mine in the darkness. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I stepped out onto the porch, rifle in hand, but pointed at the ground. The cold bit through my shirt. I hadn't bothered with a coat. 20 men stared back at me, their breath misting in the torchlight. Sheriff, you know this is wrong, I said. What I know is the law. Sheriff Dunn shifted in his saddle, looking uncomfortable. That paper's signed legal and proper. Says those children need immediate removal for their own safety. Their safety. I gestured back at the house. Girl's got a broken leg that was snapped on purpose. She's got cigarette burns and old fractures and bruises shaped like boot prints. Doc Sam's got photographs. You want to talk about safety? He's lying, Silas called out. That girl fell down the stairs at my house. Clumsy child, always was. The burns are from cooking accidents. I tried to care for them, but they're wild, unmanageable. She's 8 years old, Doc Sam said, stepping out beside me. And I've been a physician for 30 years. I know the difference between accidents and systematic torture. The sheriff's jaw tightened. Doc, I respect you, but the law's the law. That emergency order gives me authority to take those children into protective custody pending a hearing. 3 months from now, when Judge Cole arrives, we can sort it all out proper. 3 months, I said. You think those children will survive 3 months with him? Silas's smile disappeared. How dare you? I'm their legal guardian. Their mother was my wife. Their mother who died under suspicious circumstances. Doc Sam interrupted. 5 months after supposedly dying in childbirth with a baby who was born 8 months before her death. Funny how that math doesn't work. A murmur ran through the crowd. I saw some of the townspeople whispering to each other, calculating dates in their heads. Ezra Walsh, the clerk, rode his horse forward. That's slander, Doc. Mrs. Hollister died of complications. Everyone knows it. The death certificate's on file. A death certificate you filed, Doc Sam shot back. You, who happens to be Silas's cousin. You, who profits every time the railroad needs paperwork processed. You, who just happened to charge me $50 to look at public water rights records. More murmuring. People were listening now. This is getting us nowhere, the sheriff said. Mr. Brennan, bring out the children. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Rosa appeared in the doorway behind me, holding Daniel. The baby was awake, looking around with wide eyes. Behind her, May hobbled out on makeshift crutches Miguel had fashioned from tree branches. Her splinted leg dragged uselessly, The crowd went quiet when they saw her. Even in the flickering torchlight, the bruises on her arms were visible. The way she moved, careful, hurting, scared, spoke louder than any words. "Please," May said, her voice carrying in the cold air. "Please don't make me go back. He'll hurt Daniel. He'll hurt me. He killed my mama, and he'll kill us too." "Fever dreams," Silas said quickly. "The girl's been traumatized, doesn't know what she's saying. She needs proper care, not this madman filling her head with lies." But I saw doubt flicker across some faces in the crowd. A woman, Mrs. Patterson, who ran the boarding house, put her hand to her mouth. Old man Crawford, who owned the feed store, frowned. "Sheriff," I said, "give me 1 week. 1 week to gather evidence, to get statements, to prove what's happening here. If Judge Cole can't come to us, I'll take the evidence to him, ride to Helena myself if I have to." Can't do it," Sheriff Dunn said. "That order's effective immediately." "Then arrest me," I said. "Lock me up for contempt or kidnapping or whatever charge you want. But leave the children here with Rosa and Doc Sam. They're not going anywhere. You know where to find them. Just give us time to prove the truth." The sheriff actually seemed to consider it. His hand rested on his saddle horn, his eyes moving between me and the children. Then Silas spoke. "If you won't enforce the law, Sheriff, I'll take my children myself. I have every legal right." He dismounted and started walking toward the porch. May screamed, a raw, primal sound of pure terror. She dropped her crutches and tried to run, but her broken leg gave out. She collapsed on the porch, still screaming, crawling backwards away from Silas. "No, no, no, please, God, no." Rosa swept her up, cradling both children now. May buried her face in Rosa's shoulder, her whole body convulsing with sobs. The crowd had gone completely silent. Even Silas had stopped walking, apparently realizing how his approach had looked. "That's fear," Doc Sam said quietly. "Real fear, not the kind you can fake. That child is terrified of him." Mrs. Patterson called out from the crowd. "Sheriff, I seen that girl at church this morning. She had bruises then, too, fresh ones." "I seen Mrs. Hollister, the first Mrs. Hollister, with bruises plenty of times," another woman added. "We all saw. We just didn't say nothing." "With domestic discipline is not the business of gossips," Ezra Walsh snapped. "Broken bones ain't discipline," Crawford said. "That's cruelty." The sheriff rubbed his face. For a long moment, he just sat there, the weight of the decision visible in his shoulders. 48 hours, he finally said. "Brennan, you get 48 hours to compile whatever evidence you have. Doc Sam, you photograph and document everything medical. I'll allow that much, given the circumstances. But after 48 hours, if you can't prove abuse, those children go to their legal guardian. Understood?" It wasn't much. It wasn't enough. But it was something. "Understood," I said. Silas exploded. "This is outrageous. I have a court order, and I'm the law in this county until Judge Cole arrives," Sheriff Dunn said, steel in his voice now. 48 hours, that's my ruling. You got a problem with it? You can file a complaint when the judge gets here in May." He wheeled his horse around and rode off. Most of the crowd followed, but Silas stood there in my yard, staring up at me with such hatred I could feel it like heat from a forge. 48 hours, he said softly. "Enjoy them, old man, because when they're up, I'm taking what's mine. And after that?" He smiled. "Accidents happen, especially to children." He mounted his horse and disappeared into the darkness. May was still crying, but quieter now. Rosa carried her inside, murmuring comfort in Spanish. Doc Sam gripped my shoulder. 48 hours to save 2 lives. We'd better not waste a minute. The next morning came gray and cold with drizzle turning the ranch yard to mud. The ice on the eaves was melting, drip by drip, each drop sounding like a clock counting down our 48 hours. Doc Sam had worked through the night, organizing his photographs and medical notes into a proper report. Rosa had stayed up too, writing out everything May had told us about her mother's death, about the abuse, about the water rights. By dawn, we had a stack of papers that told a story no honest person could ignore. The problem was finding honest people. I rode into Prospect Gulch with Doc Sam beside me and Miguel trailing behind, his face still purple from yesterday's beating. The main street was a river of mud, horses and wagons churning it deeper, the smell of wet earth mixed with manure and coal smoke from the railroad yard. We headed straight for the Mercantile. I needed to make a stand somewhere public, somewhere the whole town could see. Samuel Pritchard was behind his counter when we walked in. He looked up, saw me, and his face went hard. "Told you yesterday, I ain't doing business with you." "I'm not here to buy," I said. "I'm here to tell the truth, and you're going to listen." I climbed onto a pickle barrel so everyone in the store could see me. There were maybe a dozen people shopping, women mostly, with a few men picking up supplies. They all stopped and stared. "Most of you know me," I said. "Jake Brennan. Worked this valley for 40 years. Some of you think I've gone strange since my daughter died. Maybe I have. But strange don't mean wrong. Get down from there, Pritchard said. You're disturbing my customers. 2 nights ago, I found a little girl dragging her baby brother through a blizzard, I continued. Her leg was broken, not from falling, but from being snapped on purpose. She had cigarette burns on her arms. Old fractures that healed wrong because nobody set them proper. She was starving. Her brother was dying. Yes. Mrs. Patterson was in the store, holding a bag of flour. She set it down carefully, listening. Silas Hollister says I stole his children. Says I'm touched in the head. Maybe that's easier to believe than the truth? I pulled out May's notched measuring stick from inside my coat. But this stick here? It's a water rights measuring tool. May's grandfather carved it in '61 when he first filed his claim to Willow Creek. Same year, my grandfather filed his claim. Our families settled this valley together, and I held up the water rights certificate, the one Rosa had found in May's coat lining. The blood-stained corner was clearly visible. This certificate proves May and her brother own senior water rights to Willow Creek, rights that pass to blood heirs, rights that Silas Hollister wants so bad, he married their mother to get them. When she wouldn't sign them over, he killed her. The store had gone completely silent. Even Pritchard had stopped objecting. That's a serious accusation, one of the men said. You got proof? May witnessed it, watched him push her mother down a well. The death certificate says she died in childbirth in August of '61, but the baby was born in March. Anyone here who can count knows that don't add up. Mrs. Patterson's face had gone pale. Lord have mercy. I remember when Mrs. Hollister died. We all thought it was strange, her dying so long after the baby came. But Silas said it was delayed complications, and Dr. Hayes signed the certificate. Dr. Hayes left town right after, another woman added. Moved to California sudden-like. Always wondered about that. The railroad needs water, I continued. They're building through this valley, and steam engines drink water like cattle. Silas promised them access to Willow Creek in exchange for money and a surveying contract. But he can't deliver that access while those children are alive. Doc Sam stepped forward. I have medical evidence documenting systematic abuse over 2 years, photographs, written testimony. Those children are in danger. The door opened, and a man in railroad company uniform walked in. The same engineer I'd seen talking to Silas at church. He stopped when he saw the crowd gathered around me. You, I said. You work for the railroad. You met with Silas Hollister about water rights. The engineer's face went red. He turned to leave. Tell them, I said. Tell them what Silas promised you. I don't know what you're talking about. You got a daughter, don't you? Doc Sam said quietly. Saw her at church. Pretty little thing, maybe 9 years old. How would you feel if someone was doing to her what Silas did to May? The engineer stopped. His shoulders slumped. For a long moment, he just stood there in the doorway, rain dripping off his hat. I got a copy of the contract, he finally said, not turning around. Been carrying it in my coat for 3 days, trying to figure out what to do. There's a clause in there. Water rights transfer contingent upon elimination of competing heirs. He turned now, his face twisted with guilt. I didn't know what elimination meant. Not at first. I thought it was legal talk. But then I heard those kids nearly froze to death in the forest, and I started wondering. He pulled a folded paper from his coat and handed it to me. I got a daughter. I won't be part of killing children so trains can run on time. The store erupted in conversation. People crowding around to see the contract, voices rising in shock and anger. Pritchard came out from behind his counter. He looked at the contract, looked at May's water rights certificate, looked at me. I owe you an apology, he said. I believed a liar because it was easier than believing the truth. I don't need your apology, I said. I need you to stand with me when the sheriff comes back. I need witnesses. I need this town to choose the right side. Mrs. Patterson spoke up. You got me. I'll testify to seeing Mrs. Hollister with bruises. I'll testify to seeing May at church yesterday, terrified. Me too, said another woman. And me, Crawford added. The crowd was shifting. Not all of them. Some still looked doubtful. Some slipped out the door rather than take a stand. But enough. Enough to matter. The door slammed open. Silas Hollister stood there, rain-soaked and furious. Behind him, Sheriff Dunn. Your 48 hours are up early, Silas said. I'm taking my children now. It's been 20 hours, I said. Not 48. Changed my mind. Silas smiled, cold as January ice. Sheriff agrees the children need to be removed immediately, especially after what happened last night. My gut clenched. What are you talking about? Your barn, Sheriff Dunn said. And now I could see the soot on his coat, smell the smoke. Caught fire around 3 this morning. We managed to save most of it, but the damage is considerable. 3 men saw your ranch hand Miguel starting it, said he was drunk, talking crazy about burning Silas out. That's a damn lie, I said. Miguel stepped forward, his face still swollen from the beating. I was in the bunkhouse all night. 10 other men can testify to that. 3 railroad workers say different, the sheriff said, and they're willing to swear it in court. Says Miguel was shouting about how Silas needed to pay, how he'd burn him out if he had to. It's railroad workers, Doc Sam said. The same ones who beat Miguel yesterday. How convenient. Silas spread his hands, all innocence. I'm just reporting what I was told. But it proves my point, doesn't it? Brennan's people are violent and unstable. Those children aren't safe there. The crowd in the mercantile was watching, listening. Some faces showed doubt again. Fire was serious business. Barns meant livelihoods. A man who'd burn a barn might do anything. Sheriff, you want to know who started that fire? The railroad engineer spoke up. Check the boots of those 3 witnesses. I saw them at the rail yard yesterday evening, loading kerosene cans onto a wagon. Said they had a job to do for Mr. Hollister. Said they'd earn a month's wages in one night. Silas's face went dark. Careful, Morrison. That's slander. You got proof? I got eyes, Morrison said, and a conscience that's been eating at me. I won't watch children die, so my company can save money on water rights. You're fired, Silas snapped. Don't work for you. I work for the railroad. I'll have your job regardless. Silas turned to the sheriff. This is a conspiracy. All of them, working together to discredit me so Brennan can keep my children. The sheriff looked tired. He pulled off his hat and ran a hand through his hair, and I saw a man caught between law and justice, not sure which one he was supposed to serve. Mr. Hollister, I'm starting to have questions, he said slowly. Real questions about timelines and death certificates and why 3 railroad men would happen to witness arson the same night your barn gets burned. Are you accusing me of something? I'm saying we're going to investigate proper before any children change hands. The sheriff looked at me. Brennan, you still got your 48 hours, but I'm posting deputies at your ranch for the children's protection and yours. Nobody gets near those kids without my say-so. This is outrageous, Silas said. I have legal custody, and I have authority to ensure those children's safety while we investigate. Allegations of abuse and arson. The sheriff's voice had steel in it now. That's my final word. You got a problem with it? Take it up with Judge Cole when he arrives. Silas stared at him for a long moment. Then he smiled, that same cold smile that made my skin crawl. Fine, he said. 48 hours. But I'm filing a formal complaint about your conduct, Sheriff. We'll see how long you keep that badge when the territorial governor hears how you sided with a kidnapper against legal custody orders. He walked out, his boots squelching in the mud. The sheriff looked at me. You got documentation? Real documentation that'll hold up? Doc Sam handed him the medical report and photographs. Systematic abuse over 2 years. The injuries don't lie. And this? The sheriff examined the water rights certificate, the railroad contract. His face got harder with each page he read. Jesus Christ. This is attempted murder for money. That's what I've been trying to tell you, I said. He folded the papers carefully and tucked them in his coat. I'll need to verify some of this. The birth records, the death certificate timeline, the water rights filing dates. He looked at Ezra Walsh, the town clerk, who'd been hovering near the back of the store. Mr. Walsh, I'm going to need access to your records. All of them. Walsh's face went pale. That is, the office is closed today. Open it. I need time to prepare the files. Open it now or I'll charge you with obstruction. The sheriff's patience had run out. I'm starting to wonder what else you might be hiding in those files. We walked through the mud to the land office, a crowd following behind. Walsh fumbled with his keys, his hands shaking. Inside, the office smelled of old paper and ink and lamp oil. Birth records first, the sheriff said. Daniel Hollister, should be filed March of 61. Walsh pulled out a ledger, flipped through pages. Here, March 15th. Born to Margaret Hollister, née Brennan. And the death certificate for Margaret Hollister? Another ledger. Walsh's hands were really shaking now. August 20th. Cause of death, childbirth complications. 5 months after the baby was born, Doc Sam said. That's medically impossible. It could be a clerical error, Walsh said quickly. Sometimes dates get mixed up. Or it's fraud, the sheriff said. Who signed this death certificate? Dr. Hayes. Who left town right after and never came back? The sheriff looked at Walsh. You filed this. You had to know the dates didn't match. Walsh said nothing. Water rights records now, I said. Willow Creek, 1861. Walsh pulled out another ledger, older, the pages yellowed. Here, June 10th, 61. Samuel Brennan and Marcus Hollister, joint claim. Senior priority in the valley. And any transfers or amendments? Walsh flipped through pages. None. The claim stays with the original families unless sold or transferred by blood heirs. So Silas Hollister has no legal claim to those water rights, the sheriff said. None at all. Only May and Daniel do. That's correct, Walsh admitted. And you knew this when you charged Brennan $50 to research it? Walsh's silence was answer. Enough. The sheriff closed the ledgers carefully. Mr. Walsh, you're under arrest for fraud and conspiracy. I'll sort out the specific charges later, but you're not walking out of here free. You can't. I'm a territorial official. You're a crook who falsified death certificates. The sheriff pulled out handcuffs. And when Judge Cole gets here, you're going to answer for every piece of paper you filed that wasn't true. Outside, thunder rumbled. The spring rain was coming harder now, washing the last of the winter ice away, turning the streets into rivers of cold brown water. Father Callahan appeared in the doorway, soaked through, breathing hard. Jake, thank God I found you. I've been searching church records all night. He held up a leather-bound book. Baptismal register. Daniel Hollister was baptized March 20th, 61, 5 months before his mother supposedly died giving birth to him. Oh. That's 3 separate proofs the death certificate is forged, Doc Sam said. The sheriff looked at Walsh. You want to tell me the truth now, before this gets worse for you? Walsh's face crumpled. Silas paid me $500 to file the death certificate with the wrong cause. Said it was a family matter, that Margaret had shamed the family and he needed to protect the children from gossip. His voice dropped. I didn't know he killed her. I swear I didn't know. But you suspected, the sheriff said. Walsh nodded miserably. The rain pounded on the roof, a sound like drums. Through the window, I could see townspeople gathering despite the weather, watching to see what would happen next. Where's Silas now? I asked. Don't know, the sheriff said. But he can't have gone far, not in this weather. And now that we've got proof of fraud and conspiracy... He stopped. His face went white. The children. If he knows we've got evidence, if he knows the case is collapsing. We all had the same thought at once. We ran for our horses. The ride back to the ranch was pure hell. Rain lashing our faces, the horses struggling through mud that sucked at their hooves. Thunder crashed overhead and lightning split the sky, turning everything white for frozen moments. I could see smoke before we cleared the last ridge. Not the barn this time, the main house. No, I breathed. God, no. We spurred the horses harder. They were blowing foam, sides heaving, but they gave everything they had. The yard was chaos. My ranch hands were forming a bucket brigade from the well, but the fire had taken hold of the eastern wall. Flames licked out the kitchen windows, and the rain couldn't touch them. Someone had used accelerant, made sure it would burn hot and fast. I threw myself off my horse before it stopped moving. Rosa! May! Miguel grabbed my arm. They got out. They're in the bunkhouse. But boss, I didn't wait to hear the rest. I ran through the mud to the bunkhouse and burst through the door. Rosa sat on a bunk holding Daniel. The baby was crying, terrified by the noise and smoke, but May wasn't there. Where is she? I demanded. Rosa's face was streaked with tears and soot. 3 men came, started the fire, said it was to draw us out. When we ran outside, one of them grabbed May. She screamed and fought, but he was too strong. They threw her on a horse and rode north, toward the mountains, toward Pine Ridge Pass. How long ago? 10 minutes, maybe 15, Rosa clutched Daniel tighter. Jake, she was so scared. She was calling for you. The sheriff and Doc Sam crashed through the door behind me. I turned to them, and whatever they saw on my face made them step back. Silas has her, I said. He's running. The pass is flooded from snowmelt, the sheriff said. The creek's running 10 feet higher than normal. Nobody can cross it. He'll try anyway. And if he can't cross... I couldn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. We all knew what a desperate man would do to a witness who could destroy him. I'm going after them, I said. Not alone. Miguel was suddenly beside me, rifle in hand. Half the crew's coming with you. Me too, Doc Sam said. The sheriff hesitated only a moment. This is a manhunt now. Kidnapping, attempted murder, arson. I'm deputizing every man here. Let's ride. We took fresh horses, the fastest we had. 8 of us in total. Me, the sheriff, Doc Sam, Miguel, and 4 of my best ranch hands. We rode north, into the teeth of the storm, following tracks that were already washing away in the rain. Pine Ridge Pass was a narrow trail that climbed through dense forest up to the high country. In summer, it was beautiful. In spring runoff, it was deadly. The creek that normally ran gentle beside the trail was now a roaring torrent, brown with mud, carrying tree branches and debris. We found the first man a mile up the trail. He was sitting against a tree, holding his arm at an odd angle. His horse was gone. The sheriff dismounted and grabbed him. Where's Silas? Crazy bastard kept going, the man gasped. Horse spooked at the high water crossing, threw me, broke my arm. Silas didn't even stop, just kept riding with the girl. How far ahead? 10 minutes, maybe less. But Sheriff, that crossing, the old bridge is gone, washed out. There's no way across except to swim, and in this current... He shook his head. We left him there and pushed on. The trail got steeper, narrower. The sound of rushing water grew louder until it drowned out everything else, even the thunder. Then I saw them. Silas stood at the edge of the swollen creek, May struggling in his arms. The water was 20 feet wide here, moving fast enough to carry a horse away. On the far side, barely visible through the rain, was the old line shack, the same one where I'd found the children that first night. "Silas!" I shouted. He spun around, and I saw his face clearly for the first time. Not angry, not cruel, just desperate and afraid. A cornered animal that knew the trap was closing. "Stay back, Brennan. All of you, stay back." He held May in front of him like a shield. She was sobbing, her broken leg dragging useless. "I'll throw her in. I swear to God I'll do it." "Don't be stupid," the sheriff called out. "It's over. Walsh talked. We've got the death certificate fraud, the railroad contract, the baptismal records. We've got proof of everything. Then I've got nothing to lose." Silas dragged May closer to the water's edge. "She's the only witness to the murder. Without her, it's all circumstantial. You can't prove I killed Margaret." "Oh, the exhumation proved it," Doc Sam said. "Skull fracture. Bruising consistent with being grabbed and pushed. The coroner's report is filed." Souse's face went even paler. No, Walsh said the exhumation request was denied." "Walsh lied to you," I said, probably hoping to save his own skin by gathering evidence. "You're done, Silas. Let the girl go." "I can't." His voice cracked. "I owe the railroad $8,000. I embezzled it, spent it on this scheme. If I can't deliver the water rights, they'll prosecute me. If you prosecute me for murder, I'll hang. Either way, I'm dead." "So you'll kill a child?" The sheriff's hand was on his gun. "That's your solution?" "She killed me first," Silas screamed. "Her and her bitch mother. All I needed was those water rights, just a signature on paper. But Margaret wouldn't sign. Said they belonged to her precious babies. Said family legacy was more important than money." He laughed, a broken sound. "Family legacy. What legacy? A piece of paper in a creek? I offered her everything. Security, comfort, a real life. She chose a dead man's memory instead." May was crying harder now, trying to pull away. But Silas's grip was iron. "Please," she sobbed. "Please. I just want my brother. I just want to go home." Something in me broke, hearing that. Home. She meant my ranch. In 3 days, she'd started calling it home. I dismounted slowly, hands visible, empty. "Silas, listen to me. You're right. You're in a bad spot. But killing May won't fix it. It'll just add another murder charge. Maybe the judge will show leniency if you cooperate. Maybe nothing." He dragged May back another step. The water was inches from her feet now. "You want her? Come get her." He threw her. May's scream cut off as she hit the water. The current grabbed her instantly, pulling her under. I saw her surface once, 20 feet downstream, arms flailing, mouth open in a silent cry. Then she was gone, swept around the bend. I didn't think, just ran, diving into the water after her. The cold hit like a fist, driving the air from my lungs. The current was a living thing, violent and hungry. I couldn't see anything except brown water and foam. My boots filled, dragging me down. I kicked them off, fought for the surface, gasped air. There, a flash of blonde hair, May, tumbling in the current, already unconscious. I swam harder than I'd ever swum in my life. My arms burned, my lungs screamed. The water kept trying to pull me under, down to the rocks that would break bones and skulls. My hand closed on fabric, May's dress. I pulled her to me, got my arm around her chest, kicked for the shore, but the current was too strong. It was carrying us both downstream, toward the rapids I knew were coming, toward the waterfall that dropped 30 feet onto rocks. A rope hit the water beside me. I grabbed it one-handed, nearly lost May, gripped harder. The rope went taut, and someone, Miguel, I learned later, was pulling with all his strength. We hit the bank hard. Hands dragged us out, turned May on her side. Water poured from her mouth, but she wasn't breathing. Doc Sam was there, pushing on her chest, breathing into her mouth. "Come on, child, come on." One breath. 2, 3. May coughed. Water gushed out. She gasped, choked, gasped again. Her eyes opened. "Papa," she whispered. That's when I realized she was talking to me. Up the trail, gunshots. I looked back through the rain and saw Silas on his horse, trying to ford the creek. The horse was swimming, struggling against the current. Silas was whipping it, screaming at it to move faster. The horse went under, Silas with it. They surfaced once, far downstream, man and horse both swept toward the waterfall. The sheriff and his deputies were running along the bank, but there was nothing they could do. Silas Hollister, Went over the falls and didn't come back up? We found his body 3 days later, caught in the rocks below. The water had done its work. Nature's justice, some folks said. God's judgment, said others. I just held May close and thanked whatever powers exist that she was still breathing. The courthouse in Prospect Gulch had never been so packed. Folks were standing shoulder to shoulder, crowding the windows, spilling out onto the muddy street. Spring had come fully now, the air warm, the smell of fresh grass and wildflowers drifting through the open doors. Judge Ephraim Cole had arrived 2 weeks early, riding hard when word reached Helena about the deaths and the evidence. He was a tall man, 70 if he was a day, with a white beard and eyes that had seen too much of the world's cruelty. May sat beside me in the front row, her leg finally out of the splint. She still limped when she walked, probably always would. Doc Sam said the bone had healed crooked despite his best efforts, but she was alive, and that was all that mattered. Daniel was in Rose's lap, playing with a wooden horse Miguel had carved for him. The baby had put on weight these past weeks, his cheeks filling out, his eyes bright and curious instead of dull with hunger. Judge Cole banged his gavel, and the crowd went silent. This court is convened to address several matters, he said. First, the question of guardianship for May and Daniel Hollister. Second, the disposition of property and water rights. Third, the criminal charges against Town Clerk Ezra Walsh. Walsh sat in chains at the defendant's table, looking 20 years older than he had a month ago. Let's start with the easy one, Judge Cole said. Mr. Walsh, you've pled guilty to fraud, falsifying official records, and conspiracy. The evidence against you is overwhelming. Do you have anything to say before I pass sentence? Walsh stood slowly. Your Honor, I know what I did was wrong. I took Silas Hollister's money, and I filed papers I knew were false. I told myself it was just a family matter, that I wasn't really hurting anyone. His voice broke. But I was. I was helping a murderer. Those children almost died because I was too much of a coward to tell the truth. Yes, they did, Judge Cole said. And for that, you'll serve 5 years in territorial prison. You'll also forfeit your position and your pension. This territory has no use for officials who can be bought. The gavel came down. Deputies led Walsh away. Now, the matter of guardianship. Judge Cole looked at me. Brennan, you've petitioned for permanent custody of May and Daniel Hollister. You understand these children come with considerable property, 640 acres of homestead land, plus senior water rights to Willow Creek valued at approximately $15,000. I understand, Your Honor, but that's their property, not mine. I'm asking to be appointed their guardian and the trustee of their estate until May comes of age. And you, Miss Hollister? Judge Cole looked at May. You're 8 years old, which is young, but old enough to have an opinion. Do you want Mr. Brennan as your guardian? May stood up. She was wearing a new dress Rosa had made, blue calico with white flowers. Her hair was braided and tied with ribbon. She looked like a regular little girl, instead of the half-frozen creature I'd found in the snow. Yes, sir, she said clearly. I want to stay with Papa Jake. He saved my life. He saved Daniel's life. He's good and kind, and he doesn't hurt us. He teaches me things, and he lets me help with the horses, and he... Her voice got smaller. He makes me feel safe. For the first time since Mama died, I feel safe. The judge's stern face softened slightly. I see. And you understand that your stepfather is dead? That he can't hurt you anymore? Yes, sir. The water took him, like it took Mama. Except Mama didn't deserve it, and he did. A murmur ran through the courtroom. Judge Cole banged his gavel for silence. The law is clear, he said. Blood relatives have priority in guardianship cases. However, Silas Hollister is deceased, and I can find no other living relatives on the Hollister side. On the Brennan side, he looked at me. Brennan, you and these children share a common ancestor, Samuel Brennan and Marcus Hollister, who jointly filed the water rights claim in '61. Yes, Your Honor, Samuel Brennan was my grandfather. Marcus Hollister was May's great-grandfather. That makes us third cousins. Close enough for kinship purposes. Judge Cole signed a paper with a flourish. Jacob R. Brennan, I hereby grant you permanent guardianship of May and Daniel Hollister. You will serve as trustee of their estate until May reaches age 21, at which point she will assume control of the property. The water rights will remain with the Hollister heirs in perpetuity. They cannot be sold, only passed to descendants. The gavel came down again. This time, the courtroom erupted in applause. May threw her arms around my neck. We can stay? Really stay? Really stay, I said, my voice rough. Judge Cole wasn't finished. As for the railroad company's claim to water access, that contract is void. It was predicated on fraud and conspiracy to commit murder. The Hollister children owe the railroad nothing. He looked at the railroad representative sitting in the back. If your company wants water access, you'll negotiate fair terms with the lawful owners when Miss Hollister comes of age, not before. More applause. The railroad man looked sour but nodded. Outside the courthouse, The whole town seemed to be celebrating. Mrs. Patterson brought a cake. Crawford donated supplies for rebuilding the burned section of my house. Even Pritchard came over, shamefaced, and offered credit at his store. "I judged you wrong," he said, "and I'm sorry for it." "You weren't the only one," I said, "but you came around when it mattered. That's what counts." Father Callahan found us in the crowd. "Jake, I was thinking those children should be baptized proper. Given their circumstances, it seems right to make it official in the church records." I'd like that," I said. "And maybe," he smiled, "maybe you should make it official legally too. Adoption papers, not just guardianship. Give them your name." I looked down at May, who was holding my hand tight. "What do you think? You want to be May Brennan instead of May Hollister?" She thought about it seriously. "Can I be both? May Hollister Brennan, so I don't forget Mama and my real daddy?" "I think that's perfect," I said. We walked back through town toward where our horses were tied. The sun was warm on our faces. The air smelled green and new, and for the first time in 15 years, I felt like maybe life was worth living after all. Daniel reached up from Rosa's arms and grabbed my finger. "Papa," he said clearly, his first real word besides May. Rosa laughed through tears. "You see, even the baby knows who his family is." Family. The word settled into my chest like a warm coal glowing steady. We had a long ride home, and when we got there, there'd be work to do, fences to mend, spring planting to finish, a house to rebuild. But for now, in this moment, everything felt right. 25 years have passed since that spring. I'm an old man now, 87, sitting on my porch, watching the sun drop behind the mountains. Wyoming's estate now has been for decades. The railroad runs through the valley, paying fair price for water access, just like Judge Cole ordered. May comes to visit every May with her husband and their 4 children. My great-grandchildren, though we dropped the great part years ago. She married a good man from the next valley over, a rancher who treats her gentle and knows her worth. She walks with that limp still, but it never slowed her down much. Daniel runs the spread next to mine. 2,000 acres of prime grazing land he bought with money from the water rights. He's got 3 boys of his own, and every one of them knows how to measure a creek with a notched stick. That stick, the one May's grandfather carved in '61, it stands beside her mama's grave marker up on the hill. Every spring when the snowmelt runs high, May takes it down and measures Willow Creek, same as her grandfather did, same as I taught her to do. Her children watch and learn, and someday they'll teach their children. The water keeps flowing. The seasons keep turning. And the truth? Well, the truth runs clean and cold forever, just like that creek. Folks ask me sometimes why I risked everything for 2 children who weren't my blood. I tell them blood's just one kind of family. The kind that matters most is the family you choose when choosing costs you something. The family you fight for when the whole world says to quit. I lost my Sarah to water. God gave me May and Daniel through water. I figure that's balance in its way. Some men measure wealth in cattle or land. I measured mine in 2 young ones who taught an old man his heart wasn't dead after all. The creek's running high tonight. I can hear it from here, singing its old song. Time to go inside. May's making her mama's corn tortillas for supper, and family's waiting.